Hey guys, welcome to week 6. You guys have made it this far. We're almost done. Attendance, just a recap. When you guys see this icon, you guys can get 10 points max extra credit in your grade book for the lectures. Anything else would be the 5 points for the end of course assessment. Checklist. So this week you guys have your learning videos and your learning materials. Try to get that done by February 23rd. This week you guys are going to be replying to 5 classmates at least if you can. Then you have your module 6 quiz. Then you guys are starting part 5 and part 6 of your project, your mock-ups and your interactive prototype, and try to have this done by February 23rd. I do want to touch base on this. It seems like even though with the extra credit opportunities that I provide inside the lecture, not everybody's taking advantage of that. It's better to take advantage of it now instead of not at all because you can get back points whether you missed on your quiz, whether you don't want to go back to your discussion board and fix, whatever you got marked off, stuff like that. Also, just know that I have put zeros in the grade book as a placeholder for you guys to know what assignments need to get done and turned in. As I stated in week 1, I do allow weight work. Please try to submit those assignments because any other score is better than a 0. I promise. A 0 is going to drop your guys' grade down a lot. Our module 6 learning goals. So in this module, we're going to move our projects through the design phase, and we're going to create the prototype phase to complete the part 5 and part 6 mock-ups and prototypes of our course project. And we're going to watch a short video about IDEO and how they say that the prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. We make prototypes to test a hypothesis and learn from it. So some barriers only become visible after the prototype is built. I know that you guys look at your prototype and you think, oh, this is great. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. There's always something wrong with it, and you just got to go back and tweak it a little bit to make it the best that it can be. So we can always find a solution faster whenever we test our prototypes in the early progress, in the early stages of it. And then it's also like whenever you move on and you're working for a client or a company, just know that it's cheaper to test early and fail early in the process. You guys just need to know that failure is fine because we can learn from our mistakes. And so we're going to watch a short video called The Power of Prototypes, and it has to do from the Earth to the Moon. I'm going to turn on closed captions.
Five, 600 pounds. You need them? Yeah, I think astronauts might want to see where to go. Do they need windows this big? Of course they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to see from their seats. What? They don't need seats. They have to have seats for. Why? They didn't fly standing up. But they have to land in 1/6 gravity. And legs are great shopping too. If they were standing, they'd be a lot closer to the window, which would increase their field of view, which would mean they wouldn't need such big windows in the first. What do you think? I don't think it's interesting. I don't really see it. Let's try that. Hey, so sit. How do that? What we did instead of sleep. Oh, John, we can certainly see it now. Gotta call Joe Gavin about the budget.
All right. Module 6, planning ahead. So in this module, you guys are going to be using Figma to create your Part 5 prototypes and your mock-ups for your guys' course project. Next, your peers are going to test your interactive prototype through a URL website. So make sure you guys test that URL and make sure it works. Otherwise, you guys are not going to receive the feedback that you guys need. After receiving your guys' feedback from your peers on your prototype, you guys are going to spend some time making improvements or any revisions if there's any that are necessary. And then you guys are going to be using a working microphone and a camera to present your guys' final presentation in module 8. So make sure that you have one of those and those work. Stuff like that. The easiest way to do that is to create, a slideshow presentation, kind of like the one I have for you guys, and then just talking like I am, but talking in the background and going through what you're talking about. Prototyping. So UX prototyping is the process of creating a preliminary model of a product to test its functionality and usability before full development. So what is it? UX prototyping is the act of creating a tangible, though often simplified version of a product or interface to simulate how it's going to work. So how the end goal that you guys are testing for, developing for, making improvements for, stuff like that, how your design is going to work. And it serves as the test bed for concepts, allowing designers to validate ideas and identify potential usability problems for development begins. So why is this important? Well, it's important because there needs to be user validation, cost and time savings, improve collaboration and risk reduction. So if we're looking over at the user validation, it allows for testing with real users to ensure the final product meets their needs. Remember, you're not designing for yourself, you're designing for other people. And you want to think about inclusion, about designing for all individuals of all different types, ages, disabilities, not disabilities, stuff like that. Cost and savings. So identifying and fixing issues early in the process is much cheaper and faster than making changes after the development is complete. Improve collaboration. Prototypes help teams and stakeholders visualize and understand the user experience behind it, improving communication and alignment. And last, we have risk reduction. It minimizes the risk of launching a product that is difficult to use or does not function as intended. Prototyping. So I'm sure you guys have heard of the two different kinds of prototyping. There's the low fidelity prototypes, and these are simple and quick to create, such as paper sketches or basic wireframes, and they are great for mapping out the core structure and user flow. And then there's the high fidelity, and that's like what your product is going to look like. And they are usually more detailed, interactive, and show closer to the final product, often with realistic visuals and functionality. They are ideal for usability testing and stakeholder presentations. And then I have a question down here. How do you know what fidelity prototype is to make and what do they look like? And we're going to watch a short video with captions.
Hi everyone, in this video we're going to talk about the difference between wireframes and high fidelity. Okay, well it's pretty you can see.
Big.
Wireframes are pretty budget and high fidelity mockups look really nice. And they'll call them hi-fi, lo-fi. Okay, generally they'll call them wireframes. And hi-fi is high fidelity. Okay, this one's going to be really quick and easy to make and test. Okay, and do not try and skip, if you're new to UX, skipping the wireframe section of your kind of design process at your peril. You can probably knock up a wireframe in a few minutes. Whereas high fidelity, you can end up kind of like playing with the tracking and leading for hours and hours, and you will not get a better, test out of your potential kind of audience. We're being assigned a task flow. We can really easily create a wireframe and test that task flow even on the app. I'll show you how to do that, like on a phone or on a website. Super quick, super easy, and no distracting, like, oh, is that the right image? Is that the right font? I'm not sure about the colors. You're talking about the task flow, okay? Like the actual mechanics of how this is built underneath, and we can test it quickly with wireframes. Wireframes don't have to look like this. That's my wireframe. Another wireframe that I downloaded, a lot prettier. Buttons got color in them. Ooh. Okay, pick one color only, gray and a color if you want, or stick to gray. You want to take away the design elements here, you spending time doing it, or
I want to pause it. So your wireframes should align with your guys' UI style guide. So whatever colors or buttons or layout that you guys chose for your UI style guide, that is what you guys are going to implement inside your wireframes.
at least the client going, oh, I don't like pink, or this blue's not the right blue. You want to take all of that out of the equation when you're designing wireframes. Keep it simple. Pick a boring font and a boring color. Another wireframe, slightly nicer. Yeah, somebody spent some time on lots of kind of headings and stuff, and yeah, you can. There's no reason you can't take your wireframes further than what we do in this course. A really simple one that's kind of removed all the text. And another sketchy one. Ooh, kind of sketchy. I think that's too close to Comic Sans for me, but I like the sketchy lines around the outside. So they're all lo-fi wireframes. Okay, hi-fi. It's in the same document. Okay, this one looks a lot prettier though. Okay, this one here, another hi-fi. A lot more time and effort going into this one. But for testing, you only need the basics. So that's why we're doing wireframes. And you have to do it because that's the beginning of the course. We're going to learn lots about how to use Figma, building wireframes before we start building our super beautiful things a little bit later in the course. All right, let's actually get started with Figma and do something. All right, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Consider giving it a thumbs uppy likey thing, and also consider subscribing to the channel. I've got lots more Figma tutorial.
Stop it there. All right, now you guys are going to randomly prototype a structure of some kind, and we have extra credit opportunity in the bottom. Please include a picture of the structure that you made, articulate why you made it, and the way that you made it. So some items that you can use to build with. I've used pretzels and marshmallows before to make a structure. Tape, sticks, glue, Legos, Lincoln Logs, paper clips, rubber bands, whatever you guys want to use, create a structure. You guys have 15 minutes, and if you guys include a picture with a little description in the comments below, you guys can earn a point of extra credit, and I have a 15-minute timer. You will not have to pause this video because I'm going to go ahead and play it through for you guys, and we can just move together. All right, welcome back, you guys. Time's up. Hope you guys liked that video. It's very relaxing. Hopefully you guys didn't fall asleep. I'll try to make your structure. All right, moving on. This is what your guys' project part 5 mockups looks like. The guidelines is you guys must have 5 screens, pages, saved and separated as PNG files. You must follow your UI style guide that I mentioned whenever we were watching the YouTube video. You must follow the layout of your wireframes. And then also just think about the basic rule of design. Your project part 5 rubric, you see that is due February 23rd, is worth a total of 50 points here. This is how you're going to be graded. See 5 plus mockups following the UI style guide and wireframes. If you guys want to do more than 5, that's totally up to you. It doesn't matter. Your project part 6 interactive prototype, 75 points. Make sure, like I mentioned before, that your URL works correctly for testing it. If you guys submit a URL and it doesn't work, you guys can't get feedback from your peers. Also, interactive prototype has to show what happens on swipes, clicks on each of the 5 plus screens that you guys create. I did not mean to do that. Totally typo, but it's supposed to be project part 6 of the rubric. Your interactive prototype, and this is how you guys are being graded. Again, it's 75 points. make sure that you guys include your URL. Mockups. So a UX mockup is a high fidelity static visualization of a product's interface that shows its final visual appearance, including colors, the typography that you guys chose, imagery, and layout. So what mockups include is a visual design, also known as specific colors, fonts, imagery, and brandings that are included to show the product's aesthetic. Layout and structure, the precise placement of elements like buttons, menus, and content is defined and is well communicated through your process. And content, placeholder context, and sometimes actual editorial copy are used to give a realistic feel. So key characteristics, you want to make sure that there's communication, user testing, developmental guidance, and iterative design. So communication serves as a clear visual tool to present design concepts to teams and stakeholders, or your peers and myself. User testing mockups can be shown to users to gather feedback early in the design process and validate your hypothesis and your guys' design decisions. And then there's developmental guidance. They provide a detailed blueprint for developers, reducing guesswork and potential misunderstandings. So if something's not clear to your guys' user or an audience member. And then iterative design. So mockups allow designers to make revisions based on feedback before moving to the more complex stage of building interactive prototypes. And then I just wanted to show you guys what the difference between a mockup and a prototype is. A mockup is a static image of what the design will look like, and a prototype is an interactive model that your peers and myself will interact with that stimulates how the product will function, allowing users to click through pages or perform actions, and a mockup can be the basis for creating a prototype. We are moving on to Kahoot. So you guys have Learn. You guys have your flashcards. If you don't know it, X. If you do know it, check mark to check your understanding and make sure it's right. You can flip it over. And then you guys can play solo. I think last week I did Tallest Tower, Treasure Cove. Classic mode. You can type in a nickname. There's your time button at the bottom. Correct. Moves on to the next one. And then you're playing against computer-generated people. Moving on. So looking into next week's Module 7, we're going to learn what all is included in the design brief and how important it is to be thorough and provide as much detail as you can. It should describe the project with enough detail that it can be handed over to someone else to be completed or duplicated. So if any details are left out, the end result will not turn out as expected. This module is about making revisions and completing the course design brief for your guys' project. And here's a beautiful example. So this is the expectation of your guys' project. If you guys do not include detail and you guys are not thorough, this is what your project's going to look like. This is what your design brief is going to look like. And this is what a clear design brief that is articulated well and has plenty of explanation and details into it. Next week, your guys' discussion board, you're going to be sharing your URL for your interactive prototype, and you can provide an explanation if you see fit. If you don't, that's fine. Just include your URL to ensure the user's goals are clear. I also suggest that you guys ask very specific questions to your peers that you would like your guys' peers to answer, whether if you want a definite answer or if you feel like something could be improved, but you're not sure how it could be improved. Write that below as a question for your peers to reply back with to get better feedback. And then you guys will have your project revisions and your design brief will be due. Thank you for your time today. If any of you guys have any course-related questions, you guys can reply in the comments like you guys have. Great job for those of you who have done the extra credit. I look forward to seeing your guys' structure that you guys created today during your 15 minutes. And if you have any personal questions or concerns, please send me a message on IvyLearn. Thank you.